Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties getting rolling. Let me know if all the video and audio is coming through to you lovely people in Twitch. I'm Ian. This is the first stream of 2019 for
Hello,
Ian
everyone.
Gamesmith. Thank you so much for your patience.
Whoa,
Sorry,
I
we had
did
some
not
technical diff.
mute.
Twitch. There we go. Um, I'm super excited to be here. We got a whole bunch of fun stuff for you today and for this year, hopefully. I think that we have an awesome group for you today. This is the beginning of a new series for Ian Gamesmith. It's 3-act play. We have nothing planned for today. We are going to generate a
Yep.
world from scratch, blank page. Next week, we will take the giant world setting that we have kind of generated today and narrow it down to a setting and create some characters with some kind of like improv games and collaborative stuff. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll play a one shot with all of the setting material and characters that we have been building out. So, really excited for this. Thanks so much for showing up. And a few other real quick announcements. My other series that I'm doing this year is Games by Design, where I am working with independent tabletop RPG game designers, and I'm going to have the designer themselves come on and run games on the stream. I'm super excited to announce. I got a couple brewing, but the first one that I get to announce is working um, on Iron Edda Accelerated, which we will be starting in just a couple of weeks with I'm gonna mispronounce their name, Tracy Barnett's. And I can't wait. It just came together within the last few days. I am so excited. I will link the game in the chat so you guys can all check it out, and I'll be making more announcements on Twitter about this as well. Yeah, it's going to be really fun. And I'm excited to let you guys see game designers run their own games. It's very exciting for me. So, without further ado, let's introduce you to the beautiful people I have here today that are going to help me build this world. Why don't you guys all introduce yourself, say who you are, what you do, where you are on the internet, and what is exciting to you right now. Darcy, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Darcy Ross. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm from Monte Cook Games. I'm their community relations coordinator or house extrovert. Yeah, I get up to all sorts of things, but I'm kind of known for science and RPGs. So today I have been thinking a lot about barnacles. So get excited for that sort of tweet storm happening at some point. And you can find me tweeting about science and RPGs and other nonsense at Darcy L. Ross on most of the places.
Good. Excellent. Alexei, what do you got?
Hi, I'm Alexei. He, him pronouns. Let's see, you can find me on the internet at voxexmachina, Vox Ex Machina on Twitter. Let's see, I teach game design and computer science in San Francisco. And what is making me excited today? I think just like getting to do this sort of big blank page history is really it's really thrilling. My approach to um, world building is always like very historically based. So the idea of starting there and working inward is really fun. You can hear more of my thoughts on GMing and world building at a podcast that I did called Carpe Diem, which is a podcast where we tried to teach my friend Meredith how to run D&D. And one day we will run D&D.
Awesome.
I vow it.
Very cool. Very cool. And last but certainly not least, Jess.
Hello, I'm Jess. Go by Burst of Hope on Twitter. She, her pronouns, but they, them is totally okay by me. I just do a hodgepodge of whatever. I try and play games wherever I can. I'm jamming on Scraticus Academy of the Strange, which is another Monte Cook Games thing. Super excited to be here. I don't know. We're you just expect a lot of shenanigans. We're gonna build a world, and it's gonna be some nonsense, and I'm excited.
Me too. Yeah, I don't think I actually introduced myself at the top. I'm Ian Smith. I use they, them pronouns. I am a game designer and author, and yeah, the Twitch is my relatively recent passion. I started this about midway through last year, and I'm just super excited to kick off some new series for you guys this year. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get rolling. So what we're going to use for world building is a game called Microscope by Ben Robbins. It's a fantastic game. It's super good. It's all about it's GM-less, zero prep, just collaboratively building a history together. And I love it to death. It's such a good game. You should definitely check it out. Lanemage.com is Ben Robbins' website. He's got a couple of other really good games up there as well, so definitely check him out. Microscope is totally open-ended, totally settingless. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to start with a germ of an idea, either something that comes from one of the four of us, or if you're in chat and you want to throw out an idea, anything goes. This can be we can be building a world that's playing E. coli in a petri dish, the rise and fall of a religion. We can be, the humanity escaping to the stars, the last fairies in Central Park, whatever you want to do. Like anything is game. So we'll throw out some ideas, kind of decide what's exciting to us, where we want to go with that. And then after that, Microscope is a game where you build a history. So you pick kind of a beginning and end point of the story you want to tell, and then you're going to define eras within that. Within eras, you'll have events, and then with events, you'll have scenes that'll just kind of be like free form role play, just very small moments in time to help define the setting. And we'll get into that more as we go on. That's kind of just the high picture. So now it's the time to start throwing out ideas. What do you guys want to see? What do you want to play? The world is your oyster. Do you have any fun ideas?
The world's our barnacle?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, into it.
I actually I've been reading a lot. I haven't played it yet, but I've been reading a lot about this game, Descent into Midnight.
Yeah.
Jason talks a lot about it. Our Notion colleague talks a lot about it, and I think like an undersea type experience would be really interesting, like the history of an underwater world. Although we did pre-stream, we did say something that it should be about cats, which I'm also strongly.
We could have
There
undersea
are now
cats
underwater. It's fine.
I feel like that's not a good mix. Like, cats underwater, even like aquatic cats. I think that's, I don't know, a bridge too far maybe.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
Big semi-aquatic kittens.
Actual. I like it.
Their rumbles can be felt as waves across the sea.
Am I remembering correctly that Microscope, that this bit is sort of, we would say I'm interested in like aquatic stuff, and then we can each go around and sort of contribute a component, or how are you arranging this?
So that's the next step. That's when we build a palette.
Cool.
So now we're just kind of coming up with a super high level idea. And then the next thing we're going to do is build a palette, which is where we can kind of flavor it. You can introduce elements that might not be expected. You can ban things that might be expected. That'll be the next step. So right now it's just a really high level genre, theme, just a kernel of an idea.
Okay.
Let's see, we have from N. Griblin, we have global flooding survivors building up an artificial new landmass in the sea to live on. Ooh, that's a pretty cool one.
Yeah, and Jordan Shively adds that the world is the dead corpse of your fallen god that your ancestors dethroned. So we're kind of getting this like after some apocalyptic event, which I'm unsurprisingly very interested in. I'm kind of into like weird post some crisis rebuilding.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like low tech, uber science is magic, real high fantasy magic. What are we thinking? I asked too hard of a question.
Yeah. Maybe let's kind of pick a broader scope and then like drill down into that kind of detail. That's another kind of palette-y kind of question.
Okay. I'm just trying to get like timeline wise.
And all of those are on the table. So if you're specifically interested in like science is magic, or like a super like high fantasy-ish kind of like anything goes magically sort of feel, throw that out there by all means.
I like for a big picture, the survivors of an apocalypse rebuild their world in the water, or like sort of like adapt to semi-aquatic life. I don't know if that's getting too specific, but
No.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely interested when Jordan Shively mentioned the fallen god aspect. So it's less post-apocalyptic and more like dealing with the aftermath of a living god becoming now something we worship? Do we try and honor their existence?
Yeah.
I sort of like the living god and the dead god and the ocean setting cross-pollinated in my head, and I really like the idea of people like building on this like corpse of this sort of like divine coral. Like there's this like weird like coral landmass that was once maybe alive in a different way and has now sort of calcified and has become this like
Yeah.
If we're getting into coral bleaching and also divinity, I'm here for it.
Yeah. No, it sounds like all these ideas are kind of like coalescing into a solid thing. Is this a direction we want to go? Is there anything else everybody's comfortable with it, or do you want to pitch anything else out, or?
This is a good way to congeal.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right. So we are going to
And Gremlin notes Subnautica 2. This time it's personal.
Nice. All right. Thanks so much for suggestions, everybody in the chat. That was really great. So yeah, we are looking at, let's see here. So we have, I'm gonna just take quick notes. So we have the corpse of God that our ancestors killed, that we are now building a civilization in. Yeah?
Damn, son, why did our ancestors kill our god? I wasn't even sure if it was sentient yet.
And it is, we have some aquatic elements going on there, so we can kind of dig in a little bit and see what the nature of this thing is. Does that sound like a good high-level synopsis for everybody? Anything to add or edit? No?
No, I think that's pretty solid.
Sweet. All right. Now the next thing we're going to do, and now I will switch over to my Trello view. Well, hey, how about now? So, there we go. That should be better.
Cool.
Oh, that's awful, because then they just had to watch me like typo all over the place with no sounds. Oof, brutal.
That's okay. We're just going to figure out the bookends of our history.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah. So that is where we're at. So now we need to pick the beginning and the end of this history. So we don't need to have the we can pick it up anywhere we want, right? So we get to define the scope of the story. We can start with the god already dead, or we can pick it up at the act of killing. We can pick it up in the aftermath, wherever you guys want, and then we also need to define an endpoint. So What do you guys think? Where should we define the beginning and end of this story?
I have an end point, and
Okay.
it's really rough.
Okay.
So like our history ends when our god's body finally like drifts beneath the waves, like when it's utterly subsumed by the sea and ceases sort of like disappears or ceases to exist. Like that's the end of our history.
All right.
Cool. The end of
Uh,
the corpse is the end of our history.
yeah,
Yeah.
However that shakes out.
Cool. Everybody good with that? Do we have any other ideas that we want to bounce around? Chat, feel free to chime in on this as well.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Like we could have some sort of event accelerating that decomposition beyond what we expected.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
All right. Cool. We'll go with
Maybe
that.
we could start with like a major decision coming up where like people have to decide what we're going to do about living on this, about the corpse that we're living on one way or another. That could be back in ye olden days when it was like a rockin' place to hang out. That could be things are starting to turn bad. What do? I'm comfortable with anything, but I feel like starting at an interesting decision point might rocket us toward that fun ending.
Yeah. Why does it keep switching my card over? There we go. I'm sorry, I was messing with Trello. Will you synopsize that for me again, Darcy?
We begin with a decision.
Okay.
About some aspect of living on this god. Now it could be back when the god is a happening fun coral land, or when things are starting to go down. Jordan Shively recommends beginning could be the freshness of having slain the god. So the first generation was in direct opposition, so you can see how that history is altered.
Ooh. What if what if we start basically like the just preceding generation like fought this sort of like holy war against their god, and then the society quickly realizes that they now have to inhabit that god's corpse. Like it starts with them realizing like, oh, now that we've done this, like we have to go live there. Like that has to be our
Oh,
Oh,
like
interesting. So they didn't live there before.
yeah, like maybe like whatever they were living on only existed by virtue of the god, and so now
Yeah.
all that's left is the corpse.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Nice.
Okay, sweet.
So that's our beginning point.
Makes sense. I also just watched Atlantis, which, despite some aspects of it not holding up, many aspects, especially the beautiful animation, still do.
Very true.
I really enjoy that film.
Can
So I'm
confirm.
ready. I'm ready for weird floating mask gods and spirits and stuff.
Awesome.
It's gonna be good.
Awesome. All right, so we have our beginning and our end. Now we'll do our palettes. Thank you so much for helping me out there, Alexia, with the order of operations.
You know me.
So, one more step real quick before we move on. So we need to pick whether this beginning and this end are generally light or dark.
Tonally?
Yeah. So just it's a really broad, like, is this a good, happy, positive thing, or kind of a grim?
I feel like we're very grim right now.
Yep. Both seem a little on the grim side to me. So we're gonna give them the grim stickers.
Grim stickers, cute.
Eh.
Oh, sad.
All right. There we go. All right. Now we're going to do palette. So palette is the time to say these are things I want or things I don't want in the game. So this is this is the kind of a way to tweak the genre or the expectations, right? So if we were playing a fantasy game, you could say no elves or no dragons, right? or you could
Mhm.
say, I want there to be laser swords. This is a way to kind of pull it in a different direction, something that interests you, that'll flavor it. Um, so we'll go around. We'll probably go around twice, and each contribute a yes or a no. You don't have to. You don't have to do one of each. You can do however you like. But Darcy, do you want to go ahead and start? Is there something that you want to see for sure or not see for sure in this game?
I want weird biomechanical tech.
You can't see us nodding, but we're like, fucks, yes.
But that is literally going to be mine. So
Ideally vehicles. Ideally some weird biomechanical vehicles, but
yes.
fusions of biology and technology. Here for it.
Sweet. I
Kaiju mech suits, got it.
dig it.
Anemone hats.
I'm gonna zap you with my anemone.
All right, and let me try this real quick, see if I can get faces back up on here. Nope, not gonna do faces. Oh well.
Should
Okay.
we have faces on and then just flash to it at the end when it's sort of built?
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's more fun to look
Darcy,
at
are you
humans
implying
than...
that our faces are more interesting than our board of creation?
I've already said our faces are overrated on record. So
all right. Jess, give me a palette.
We are not human.
no
Ooh.
human.
No humans.
Sweet. I was almost going
Awesome.
to do that one. Yay.
No humans.
Yeah, the weirder the better, I say we're going.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
I dig it. Alexa, what do you got?
Okay, I think I wanted to do no magic, but now I want to change it in the yes column. Magic is gross.
Excellent.
Like a squicky, like people
Yeah.
think magic is like, ugh, like it's like you vomit on something that's not acceptable.
No, yeah, exactly. Both. It's both like our society thinks like magic dangerous, scary, and weird, but also like part of the reason that they think that is that people who do magic do it through like gross.
I'm gonna lick everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's that.
Man.
So all the wizards are socially inept.
Oh no.
Yeah, magic is very like biological and like.
Awesome.
I'm intrigued.
Oh man, there's so many gross directions I can take this in. I'm just gonna let
Oh,
that
good
keep
time.
noodling. Good.
Let's see here. I think...
Carrion Mancy is a great idea. Flesh Mancy, Carrion Mancy.
Oh man.
Oh, the dead. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, there's so much to do here. I would like there to be
God, killing snails. Oh man. We're snails. We're all snails. Jordan knows who we're I've had a lot of snails on my feed, not Darcy related, so I'm okay with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It begins.
Yeah.
Slow takeover.
Oh man, I think I would like to see there be... I want there to be like some... So the corpse is degenerating and decomposing. And I want there to be some effect of that. Like, what is decomposing the corpse? I think I want there to be like sentient microbes that are part of this decomposition process. Like,
divine parasites that
yeah,
are like the flesh of our dead god. Gross. I love it.
Oh man, we're committing to 3 weeks of this, guys. Are you up for this?
I am 100% prepared to play like a bone worm priest. Yeah.
All right. Should we go around again? Darcy, do you have something you want to add or ban? If you don't have anything at this point, that's totally fine. But by all means, lay it
Yeah,
on me.
deep within the god, ancient ruins, right? Because
Ooh,
it's coral or whatever, and so the fleshy bits are going away and need to be eaten
yeah.
as microbes. But down beneath, if you get there's stuff down there. I don't know what it is.
Ooh, I
Maybe
like
it's
that.
cool.
Beyond the
I
first rib cage and into the second rib cage.
I have two brands, and they're snails and they're tomb raiding. Okay, they're Lara Croft and snails. That's all I got.
We finally brought them together.
All right. Jess, what do you got?
All right, we've got gross magic, we've got tombs to raid, and we've got microbes destroying our place because we killed the gods. Along the lines of this weird biology, I'm intrigued by how do you want to put it? It's almost like if you played that old game Spore, it's kind of swap one piece out for another situation.
Modular body parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's
Awesome.
got to be a cost, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking more of like it's an interpersonal thing. So the more time you spend with somebody, the more modular you can get.
I'm
Oh,
so happy.
interesting. So how do I sum that up?
Interpersonal modular.
Body plasticity.
Yeah.
Is sort of what's happening.
Yeah.
The more connected, like not necessarily time-based, but definitely like the deeper connection you feel with a person, the more intricate of a design you could get.
I just met you, and this is crazy, but I need your arms.
I think that about people all the time. Your hair is so good, I want it.
All right. Alexei, do you have anything to add to the palette?
I think I want to add like on the no front. I want this. I think this is a story. Oh no. How do I want to put this? I want this to be a story about our society fighting against the elements and their situation, but I don't want this to be a story about the society like tearing itself apart, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So like I was gonna say like no interpersonal conflict, but that seems like too broad. But what about like the thing that I want to ban is society fractures as an outcome before maybe like the very, very end, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I dig that. I like that it's like it's a very like post-apocalyptic band together, gotta, everybody's got a chip in to survive kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. The ethos is the society's ethos is much more like, you can even if we don't really understand each other, like we still have to pull together to survive. And so like this isn't a story about the society like fracturing along certain lines and like splitting apart and like people leaving.
I like it.
Yeah.
But I think that there's still a lot of like people arguing about what the right thing to do is.
Sure.
Yeah. Petty conflicts over morals, but not all out war or violence in that aspect.
Exactly. Like no civil war, no all out violence within the community.
Cool, into it.
Dig it.
The more you hate someone, your bodies literally repel from each other, so you can't damage each other.
Oh no. Even worse. The more, remember, it's like how much you're connected to someone is how much your body plasticity is. The more you hate someone, the more you look like them. Yeah, the more you start to like take on their attributes because like you're thinking about them all the
And so it goes both ways. It's level of emotion, not
Intensity.
necessarily just
Yeah.
positivity. It's intensity that it measures.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
god.
Awesome. I think
Rich Howard's gonna have to take a listen to this. It's like, what are you doing to this underwater world?
I think I would like to ban any creatures larger than our protagonist species. So like I don't think there's any other like fauna out there. I think that like they're the large thing and it goes down, to like the microbes and stuff like that. But like
Are you calling us apex predators?
yeah, I think so.
No creatures or no sentient creatures?
I'm thinking
Just nothing.
yeah,
Everything big died with the gods.
yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like
neat.
they've isolated themselves in a lot of ways.
Uh-huh. It
I like
was the whale god. It was like the cetacean, the god of big things in the ocean. And when it died, everything big in the ocean just like went with it. Like, or
God, now I'm wondering about this isolation. Is it and I of course I can't get Moana out of my head. But there's that oh gosh, is it an atoll? ATOLL? I'm wondering if the shape of the god's body is sort of a enclosing thing, and is that if we're living within this enclosure, that especially gives you the opportunity for diminutive creatures. It could be not just that everything big died, but everything big got things that were bigger got smaller, or things stay smaller.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is pygmy mammoths existed.
Yes.
And we should
Sustainability.
we should
Of
take that to
size.
heart.
Absolutely.
I
Is
love
fantastic.
that.
Now I need a pig to follow him around with a mermaid tail.
Yep.
Jordan Shively makes the note that maybe the war destroyed the ecosystem, and that's why we're in the corpse.
Ooh.
I mean,
Ooh.
it probably wasn't good for the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Certainly.
All right, cool. Oh man, all right. So I'm going to swap over to our Trello view so we can review these real quick. And then let's see here. So we have yes is, and by these are things that you're opting in. If they don't show up, that's fine. You're not
Right.
obliged to them. But they're things that like are things to consider when you're generating your stories. So we have weird biomechanical tech and vehicles. Magic is gross, so which implies that there is magic, right? Which we didn't necessarily round out anywhere else. We have sentient microbes, ancient ruins inside the god, and interpersonal body plasticity.
Oh.
That just sounds so fun.
No, interpersonal body plasticity is both my relationship goals and my new band name.
Plasticity keeps me up at night. This is like freaking so exciting.
So for our no's, we have no humans. So we should have a brief conversation about what our species is real quick. There are no large-scale society fractures and no fauna larger than our protagonist species. So let's make a note real quick. How are you envisioning this race? If they're not humans, what?
I assume vertebrae of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Or amphibious.
Mm-hmm.
What if we're nudibranchs?
Stop. Darcy's gonna implode.
Come on. What if we're beautiful sea slugs?
Yeah,
Oh
I mean
my
that would kind of do interesting things for the plasticity and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god. We're giant sea slugs.
Are we sea slugs that have I like the idea that we're amphibious. I kind of like the above ground below. So we're kind of weird, and I think we can also like. There's all sorts of before vertebrates were vertebrates, they had a little cartilaginous notochord and stuff like that. So I think we can still be vertebrates that look and off, we're something, we're like a
We can be
nudibranch that walks
squishy
on the sea.
vertebrates. Fuck.
Yeah,
We can be real squishy tentacly vertebrates is all I'm saying.
Yeah, no. I think something like we should pick a name, and I think that
Yeah.
this kind of like amphibious sea sluggy kind of space, like that continuum, and then there's just a enormous amount of variety within it, right? Like no two individuals are necessarily the same, and because they're on the move constantly anyway, right? Because of the body plasticity. So like it's not like we need to define hard, like this is exactly what their anatomy is, because it's very malleable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have a name? Names are hard. Do that they want to propose for our species that we're detailing the history of? I'm looking at you, chat.
Yeah.
Dad, help us out.
I think
If it comes down to me, it's gonna be something obnoxiously like hilarious, but not necessarily good. So
yeah, I like I don't know, something nudibranchi is kind of fun in my mind. I like that.
Thinking like a nudilith, with lith for stone, right? Have some hard parts, or like ceratolith, because cerati are the breather tentacle things that are always coming off of them. They're cerati. So, but this is just getting into weird fucking Latin play things.
yes, tell me more.
I kind of like the nudiliths. That's hard to pluralize. The nudilith, I guess that is plural, singular or plural.
Yeah. Or tendrilith, tendrils and liths. Tendrilith. It's kind of pretty.
That flows.
Yeah, it's not proper Latin construction, but we're not
Right.
beholden to that. So.
Yeah, exactly.
What about like Theolithians?
What is that?
Like Theo, like
with a god,
like divine,
yeah,
like people who live on the like divine.
Oh,
stone.
cool.
Oh, like they took a new identity after this?
Yeah.
Theoliths. That's pretty cool.
I like that. Theoliths.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
I was thinking Theolith.
That is Theolith.
It's a lot of THs to wrap your mouth around.
Yeah, that's true. What are the other prefixes that mean like?
Osti is for bone, right?
Oh, yeah.
In case you want to get away from lith.
Theosteons? Ooh,
Theosteons.
Theosteons is good.
God
I like
bones.
that. I like that a lot. All right.
Damn, son.
Also, yeah, into it.
This is epic.
I want to know a little bit more about what we look like, just so I think that'll help me. So we're kind of this amphibian nudibranch looking business. We maybe have hard parts which let us exist outside of the water column a little easier. Do we have outside hard parts? Are they things that we've used from the god to sort of prop us up? Or is it like we've evolved to have kind of a weird exoskeleton or an internal skeleton? I just need to know if there are hard. Am I soft and squishy on the outside? Or am I hard and full of weird little studs and bendy?
What if we're like mostly soft, bendy, like cartilaginous kind of stuff, but you can graft bits of the god onto you, and maybe it's a scarcity thing, right? Like that's where the structure can come from. You have to like pull it off the god and integrate it.
The microbes that are taking over the god's body.
Oh, I love it.
Our saliva evolved to be destructive.
Yeah, and maybe it's a magical process when you're incorporating some of these hard bits.
Yeah.
Gross magic. Are you willing to risk it to be more functional up on land or stronger?
Yeah, absolutely.
My creature wants to be as hard as possible, like mantis shrimp tough.
Yes.
Heck yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And you're willing to destroy the very earth we live on.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that morality
Very
is
dark sun into it.
I will win the strength of my body by gnawing it from the bones of my dead god.
Yep.
Medalist? These are the medalist, like, underwater creatures ever.
Oh my gosh.
So good.
Okay, I have to say something. My brief science aside is that Everybody go look up the scaly foot gastropod.
Yes.
Because it's we still don't know a ton about how it does it, but it's got these like weird big scales on its big fleshy foot. So you got a nice shell like you want on a snail, and then you've got this enormous mass below, and it's got all these weird like bits on it. But then those scales are plated in metal, in like freaking iron. I think.
Whoa.
Sort of
Right.
iron. Yeah, they're wild. And like if it is secreting that metal, it is the only known, like, I think metazoan that can do that, that can take metal and sort of deposit it like that to take
Right.
iron.
Oh my
So
god.
anyway,
That is
I'm just saying,
incredible. I'm going to
in
throw
case
this
you
up
want to
on
be weird
screen.
eating metal and also depositing it, there is maybe a tiny bit of scientific background for that.
I think I fought this thing in Monster Hunter at one point. Oh no.
It's like
They're
a
one of my
metal
favorites.
pangolin snail thing. It's
Yeah. Then they hang out on the deep sea vents and they don't make any sense. And all the pictures that you see of them make them look enormous, and they're really tiny.
no.
So that also, they always look like big, scaly foot metal gastropod. This big.
You're so bad.
I'm throwing it up over our faces on screen right now.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. That is a truly bizarre thing.
Yeah, they're a weird one.
Sweet.
So I'm
Okay.
really into these. Are we going with what's the name of our people again? They're the
Theosteons.
Theosteons.
Yeah.
Theosteon. Oh, so good.
Oh,
So good.
look how cute.
Alrighty. All right, so we got our beginning, we have our end, we have our palettes, we have defined our species that we are going to tell the story of. I am so deeply excited by this. The next step, this was all our setup for Microscope. The next step is to, so I'm going to go over real quick again. We have there's the reason it's called microscope is there's like the different levels of zoom, right? So our beginning and our ending are periods or eras, and you can define new eras in between there, right? So this is like long stretches of time, like think the Renaissance or the Dark Ages, or it could be a war or something along those lines. So one of the things that you can do on your turn is define an era, and then within era there are events. And that's like a moment of time. So it'd be like an assassination or a discovery or something along those lines. That is like a kind of a singular an event, right? And then within events, if there's a question that we have that we want to answer, that's where we get to scenes. So if there's a question, then for your turn, you can say, I want a scene to answer this question. And then we'll talk a little bit about the question, and then we'll define roles and take on characters for that. And then we'll just play through it until we have an answer to that question. And those are the kind of three levels. Each round, there's one person who's the focus, and they will start it, and they'll pick a theme for the round. So it can be very broad or very narrow. Like you could, it can be, the focus is betrayal, or the focus is, as small as like the focus is the, specifically grafting tentacles. I don't know. Whatever it is, you get to choose it, and everybody else kind of has to. It can be kind of obliquely attached to it, but it has to be referencing that in some way. If you're the focus, you get to create two events as long as they're nested. So you can do one, but you can do a era and then an event within it, or an event with a scene within it. And then everybody else just gets to pick one as you go around. And then when we finish the round, the person basically before the focus gets to pick a legacy, which is like the one like thing that really stood out from this round for them that they want to highlight, so that we can kind of have it in the back of our minds to come back and revisit. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get rolling. I'm gonna go back over to our Trello board here. And I will go ahead, if y'all are cool with it, I will start, and then maybe we'll just go clockwise by what's on Twitch. So Jess, Alexei, Darcy, in rounds.
This one's perfect. Yeah.
What's that?
That sounds good.
Cool. And then I think my focus, let's see here. I am really curious about these ruins and the inner structure of the god. So that's what I want to explore in this round, is how our little Osteon society, Theosteons, interact with the ruins inside the god. So I'm going to make an era that is discovery. So the other thing I should note is that you have complete and utter creative control when it's your turn. You can blow up a city that somebody else made. You can just define something and say this is part of the world now. You are unbounded with your creative potential. So go nuts. Like, feel free to, and we can bounce back and forth between history. So if you do, have a city or something that you're quite fond of and somebody else nukes it, you can always go back and build more events and scenes into that. So really feel as unrestricted as possible.
Will we have some kind of X card, or should we just do that in our little Zoom chat in case we need to?
Yeah, thank you so much. I meant to cover that at the beginning. Yeah, definitely. What I prefer to do on stream is just hold your hand up if you have an issue with anything.
Cool.
Just so, and we'll pause. I like using the scene change mechanic. So if you need to pause, rewind, if you want to just veil it, you can fast forward. But I mean, we've all just be really open and honest. Like, don't hesitate to say if you have an issue or if you need to modify the story at all. So. Let's see here. So I am going to say our first era is the discovery of the what's a good name for these inner ruins of the god? They're like the let's do organ. Discovery of the first organ trove is what I'm going to call it.
Organ trove? That's so good. Wow, I love that. Oh man.
I guess so that should be an event, actually, I guess, because it's a singular thing. So I'm going to call the era the first age of what's it called? It's not vivisection, but when you're dissecting a corpse, it's
dissection.
Dissection.
I guess, yeah.
I was like, we're trying to overcomplicate things here.
Yep. Is it 2S? Yeah, that looks like a thing. So the first age of dissection is what I'm going to call this, and I'm going to say my event is the discovery of the first organ trove.
I'm getting very Shadow of the Colossus feels of
yeah, definitely
for the ruins. I'm excited.
That's where I need it. Okay. Excellent. So because I'm the focus, I got to do 2 nested events. Everybody else gets to pick one for the first round. We're just doing either eras or events. So Jess, what would you like to do?
Heck, why me?
Clockwise. We can go counterclockwise if you want. I can put somebody else on the spot.
Yeah, put someone else on the pressure.
No worries. Let's see. So that would be Darcy then.
Yeah. All right. So you established the age of dissection and discovery of the first organ trove, which I love. I think some event that maybe happens at the end of the first age of dissection might be what would bring that to an end. So I'm either establishing a new age or a final event, which might be uh, when, gosh, okay, maybe I'm establishing a new age after that, which is something about the age of scarcity. It's when like a bunch of magic users and the microbes have eaten through a ton of the corpse, and it's starting to become structurally unsound. So maybe it's the age of goodness. Oh, chat, please help. What would be next? The sinking age. Maybe it's starting to like go down.
Ooh, yeah. I like the idea. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't.
No, I could use help.
I was just gonna say I like the idea that like this society spent like a lot of time moving out of the water to the point where like when the corpse starts to sink, it's it's their fault and also their sort of damnation that they were like they mined too deep or something along those lines,
Oh
you know.
yeah, very much into it.
Too deep.
The age of necrosis is kind of a cool one, right?
Oh, jeez.
So it's
Yeah, is it sinking or is it like dissolving
Yeah.
from under us?
I think that could be a good
from on
question,
top
right?
of
Like
us? Yeah.
Mhm.
that could be a good question for a scene where we discover it or something.
Yeah, I dig it. All right, so we have a new age or a new era, the age of necrosis. Fantastic. All right, Alexei.
An era, an event, or a scene, right?
Yeah, I kind of we were supposed to do one rounds of just eras and events
An
before
event.
I did the
Okay,
focus,
fine.
but I started the focus already, so we can just jump into it.
Remind me what the focus is again.
The focus is the these internal structures of the god,
Got it. Got it.
like the
Okay.
ruins that started to.
Okay. I'm gonna add an event to the first age of dissection that happens after the discovery of the organ trove.
Okay.
And the event is uh, the accidental release of divine parasites.
Oh, nice.
A dig too deep kind of situation.
Yeah, I love it. All right, and we are back to you, Jess.
Sure.
Do you guys have Trello up? Do you need me to send that link in again, or do you have it?
I got it.
Got it.
Cool.
Yeah. We are pretending to be competent beans. I'm thinking, are we good with just 2 eras? I feel like, oh gosh, how many rounds do we do this? How I have a problem.
It's really open ended. So like it's mostly bounded by when we feel like we have enough set, or
Mhm.
when we run out of time. So
Yeah, I would love another age at some point. I think
oh
I
yeah.
got maybe goofed making it the beginning and the end. Or
Oh
made a
well,
very
yeah.
end age.
And again, everything we can bounce back and forth as much as we want. We can insert eras between any of
Yeah.
these things. So everything's fluid.
I think there's an event in the age of necrosis where maybe a larger piece of the skeleton actually breaks off,
Oh,
Ooh.
cool.
almost in an island situation. Now, whether that sinks down or we
I
choose
like
to
it.
follow it,
Oh, I really like that. What's how
that's a good question. How do we name such an event? I would say, yeah, something very, very visceral in terms of like breaking off. I need the words. I'm not a good dictionary.
so what would that be? Like the dismemberment
The
like or
rupturing.
yeah.
Yeah, the spleen. Yeah, great.
But I don't know that that's means breaking off quite as well.
Yeah.
Could be.
The splintering.
Oh yeah, that's
Ooh,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
The splintering of the god corpse.
Yeah.
Neat. Alrighty. And then that's back to me, right? So so Jess, you will be the person who picks the legacy. for this round. So it can be one of these things. It can be something that we discussed in passing. Just anything that stuck out to you that you want to kind of put a pin in and see if we can rope it back in later on.
Okay, so legacy, like conceptually, like how are we, like literal legacy of like how we are remembered by, or
not literal. It's for
Okay.
for us. It's a tool for us to have threads to pick up on. They're kind of like inspiration for later. You can look back at the legacies and be like, oh, that's this focus interacts with this legacy in an interesting way, and that spurs an event or something along those lines. So, just any.
Is it picking a whole era, or is it pick a like emergent property that we talked about?
Yeah,
it,
just like one idea.
Okay, an idea.
Right. So yeah, I'm okay. Let's look at the Trello board and it'll help me. So like the first legacy is the corpse of a god that the ancestors killed is now aquatic. So I definitely think, oh heck, the concept of plasticity is definitely something important enough to visit and flesh out. I'm more intrigued by the interpersonal interactions.
Yeah.
On how that mechanic works.
Right.
Cool.
Because I'm an emotional being.
I wonder if that interesting. That could be something that maybe develops at some point in this. Like maybe it's not a truth of the species at the beginning.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's something we were consciously doing at first.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, so that was my go as the focus. Oh, we should sorry, the other thing we're meant to do is you're meant to pick like light or dark for each of these things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like we have a pretty good sense of that, and my stickers are huge. So let's just kind of move on from that. But all right. All right, Darcy, you are the focus now. So you get to pick a theme or element that you want to explore, and then you can create 2 nested elements if you want.
Okay, so your first focus was the organ troves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then maybe I'm interested in the focus being that plasticity. And so if that's there's lots of ways that could touch all manner of these eras and events and scenes.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of interested in that. So
cool. And then you can make an era with an event in it or an event with a scene in it if you want, or you can just make one if you want.
Okay. Can I do? I want to do an event and a scene. I think let's get that going. I want to try out a scene. So let's go with the Age of Dissection. I'm interested in there. So let's
Mm-hmm.
And I guess a question I'm going to start with a question and maybe tie it to an event, I guess, right?
Sure.
Or do I always need an event to hang it on?
Scenes happen in events. You can put a scene in either of these. You don't have to create a nested one, or you can create a new event and put a scene in it.
Yeah. So let's say the event might be it's a big festival. Okay, it's like it's a celebration of the success of the organ troves. Okay, so it's gonna be a big weird maybe ritual they had to be like, wow, look at all this cool weird stuff we're finding down here. All these neat ways we're able to mod our bodies, like even though we don't have our gods, here's this big event to celebrate how we are still surviving and thriving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%.
So if anyone has a
Festival of the Organ Trove.
Yeah.
Festival of the Organ Trove.
That's so good. And let's try a scene. So and again, chat, I'd be happy to get ideas from you folks. So I guess my question might be, how do the Theosteons, let's see, how do they, I guess I'm like interested in asking a question that colors some of their behaviors or their rituals or culture for me. So food.
Food's always a great place to start.
That's true. That's true. I'll ask a leading question. What does the monarch of the Theosteons eat at the Festival of the Organ Trove?
Ooh.
So we play to find out. So I think that's specific enough that we explore the scene a little bit and we get to some fancy meal of the monarch.
Yeah, that's fascinating. All right. So we are now going to go through and define characters. All right. So did that save? There we go.
That's good.
Cool. And we're going to start with Alexei. Who do you want to be in this scene?
Oh, I am definitely the this is we're in the first stage of this section, so this is early on, relatively early after the fall of the corpse and our arrival there too. I think I am a priest of this fallen god, like the pope of this
cool.
fallen god.
Nice.
Whose position, like historically, that position has always sort of attended the monarch and tried to advise the monarch. But with the god dead and the rest of us living in it, it sort of casts a lot of theological questions about why my character still has a job.
Yeah, fascinating.
But tradition, everyone's sort of waiting for this person to die off and then they'll probably just leave the office empty. Rude to fire someone for having their god have died. It's just sort of insulting to me. So I feel like my character is not well liked. Everyone's just vaguely guilty and feels bad.
Fascinating. That's great. Do you want to pick a name?
My character's name is Sarl.
Spell it?
Sarl?
Yes.
Sarl. Like Sarl?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So we have Alexei is playing Sarl, the last head priest of a fallen god / advisor to the monarch. And Jess, who will you be playing?
I think I want to play the sous chef responsible for the feast.
Ooh.
Love it.
I have trained my entire life just to feed the monarchy.
Fantastic. And what is your character's name? Should really go grab a name generator somewhere because these are so hard. Although I don't think there's going to be a handy, neuter brink name generator probably, but
I think I will go with Niloxi.
Niloxi. Cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Right. I am going to. So I'm sorry. The other thing we should have done at the beginning of a scene, the person who calls the scene needs to define characters who are mandatory and characters who are banned. I forgot to mention that. So I'm assuming that the monarch is
probably mandatory.
Yeah, I mean not necessarily, but probably
not necessarily, but monarch or chef, someone that has to get us to that monarch and the food. So I think we might be okay if someone doesn't want to play monarch.
Okay.
I think we should put the monarch. I think we should put the monarch on the scene. Like I'm just saying. Like it's a fancy meal. Let's get the monarch. Why Saga?
Oh, I I think I'm going to put you on the spot and make you be the monarch, Darcy, because I want to play the explorer that's returning from the organ trove.
Cool. I love it. Oh, maybe that's how this festival sort of came to arise, that you're so successful. Love it.
And
yeah,
I'm
what's your
going to
name?
name my explorer uh, Limna.
Limna?
Hmm.
Love it.
And Darcy?
Yeah. So I will be the monarch. I'm going to be a simultaneous hermaphrodite, of course. So I am both male and female. That's why I'm,
Sure.
so competent to lead this uh, area. So you do not all have to be simultaneous hermaphrodites. I bet that our plasticity is related to that. So,
Hmm.
but I think I go by let's see. So this is early days before organ troves are really happening. So God, I almost like want them to have a title more interesting than monarch,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
I don't want
absolutely.
just a name. So
Their glistening majesty.
The Frondular.
oh goodness. Okay. The mantle is very cute
Mm.
Oh,
because a mantle is a thing where you're wearing the mantle of power.
Hmm.
Also, snails have mantles.
Is
If an
that
organ is theirs, it's like a big piece of tissue that carries everything. They're
yeah.
basically weird little organ sacs, and the mantle, subsumes that. So,
is that that's the name that the monarch uses? Is they just go by the mantle or
yeah, I think so. The
awesome?
mantle.
So good. That's
You,
so
if you're being honorific, you can add a lot of adjectives at the beginning.
right.
Your glistening mantlehood, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. I'm into that name possibly changing later on. Jordan Shively says the Theovore, God Taster,
Ooh,
but
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
but we're like not deep in that yet, I think.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, and then we're going to go through one more time, and we're going to say what each person is thinking before we start the scene.
Cool.
So we'll go back through the same order. Alexei, what is Sarl, the last head priest of the fallen god and an advisor to the monarch, thinking?
I mean, I think Sarl is like they're they hold when they started this position, it was in the latter days of a divine war, and they were very, very important. And now they're like they hold this position out of like tradition, and they have no formal power anymore. So
Hmm.
they sort of haunt the halls of the palace, growing kind of progressively older and roomier. Rheumy. Oh, hang on. But I think that the thing that they are feeling is they have this sort of presentiment of like tremendous doom. I don't think they've not kept up on the organ troves. They're not part of the like fancy fashionable part of the court, so they don't really know what's going on. They just know that all of a sudden like there's been a big upswing in like activity around the palace and everyone seems very excited. And in Sarl's heart, they're like, something very bad is going to happen now. Like something truly awful.
Excellent. Jess, what is Malaxi thinking?
I think Nilaxi generally is more artistic in their expression of cooking. And if I may go so far as to say, the mantle just generally not festival times is like, hey, just give me a dish that is interesting or new. But like when it comes to the festival time, there's now a lot of demands, whether that's from the mantle themselves or like from just like the hierarchy of like, I need this on the menu. I need you to, aerate the plankton, but also infuse it inside of like tender meats. And it's just like so many things contrasting. And I'm like, you guys don't even know the science behind this cooking, and you were wanting me to do too many things at once. So I'm just like trying to work around the best way to assuage everyone.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Excellent. I think Limna is not. I think they're kind of I don't think they do well socially. I think part of the reason that they are an explorer is because it gets them out a little bit, and I think possibly it's because they're uncomfortable with they try and restrict their feelings because they're uncomfortable with the interpersonal plasticity. Like that's not something that they like or feel good about. So they're kind of a very stoic, outsider, and so they're very uncomfortable to be forced into this very intense, emotive, formal proceeding. And Darcy?
Yeah. The mantle is reclining in some sort of elaborate throne, of course. Our people need this. We have so little left. This has to be a day of celebration. Whatever the risks, we must embrace this newness and forge a new future together. That's what they're thinking.
Excellent. All right. And then where are we going to set the scene, Darcy? Or you said you're reclining at your...
I'm in some weird throne. You guys come to me. I don't know anything else about the room.
All right. So we're in the throne room of the mantle. Fantastic.
And so we just sort of improv and play until the answer is we've answered that question?
Exactly, yeah. So I'll go ahead and kick off the scene, and then when we will play through naturally, and then when we answer the question, we'll call scene and we'll move on. Cool. Good.
Question
is
where the monarchy resides. Are we living mostly above water or below water?
I was thinking we might still, anyone can jump in and establish that, I think, is sort of how this will go. But I was sort of thinking we're below water, but maybe at the interface, because I was thinking that as we eat more from the god organs, that's helping us get more skeletonous structures that let us live more above the surface. That was a thought.
Cool.
Unless we
are we working in reverse from Earth science? All right. Did we start did we have land before the god fell? Were we sea creatures before this?
That's an interesting question.
And where do our highest people want to be on terms of the skeleton?
Yeah, I guess I was envisioning us as aquatic and then gaining structure.
Mm-hmm. So
kind of based on some of the other things we said.
Yeah, so I think it would make sense that the throne is the best of both worlds, close to the surface but still comfortably aquatic. Okay.
All right, excellent. Great. So I will say that Limna will kind of float through the aperture into the throne room, and very making an effort to not make eye contact and just sort of come into this room and sort of position themselves as neutrally and as far away from everybody as possible and say, I was summoned here.
We welcome you, honored guest. We have gathered all the important folk in our community together for your happy arrival. Please come forward. The priest will show you to your seat.
Sarl, slowly sort of slowly sort of approach you and then dodderingly take you to your seat and sit you down before like making their laborious way back towards the throne.
Sarl, keeper of the god corpse, it's an honor to be in your presence, which I think is not something that Sarl is used to hearing.
What in an aside, Charles like, what is the meaning of all of this hoopla?
We've discovered something inside the god body. There's materials and magics that previously were unheard of to our people. Their organs are wonders to behold. I have brought back a small sampling, but there are untold riches to discover in there.
Priests just shaking their head. Excellent. I think I'm the mantle calls for like some manner of dancers, right? There's sort of some I maybe I'm wondering if like one of the festivities is several of these Theosteons kind of dancing, but also engaging in sort of plastic exchange, right? It's sort of a big deal. And so there's high emotion and wonder. And two Theosteons sort of touching at various tentacle endpoints, and you can see bits of their bodies being shaped in new ways and taking on stripes, and maybe even exchanging what looks like some kind of chromatophore, some little circle of color passing from one to the other. It sounds like this might make the explorer very nervous and uncomfortable, but the mantle is definitely pro whatever this is. So is expressing their tendrils in a way that it indicates their extreme pleasure and joy at watching this display. So I assume maybe food stuff is kind of getting set up around the mantle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm walking in, Alexi's got like this giant cart of like wheeling in a whole like smorgasbord of display, and she's going over in her head like muttering like, okay, I gotta present this in this name and what's in it, and then it slowly just stops and like realizes she has to present the food.
Oh no.
Yes, you needed the food. Looks like everyone's having fun. I hope everyone's hungry. Food.
Very.
We have your graciousness, your mantle. We have a gelatin algae encrusted with almighty flakes. Granted, the almighty flakes are new and we're not sure what they do, but they seem tasty and crispy enough. And then there's a fillet of frogfish topped with a sauce that's aerated in like bioluminescent blood of the fish that we found. And then there's like a galette de bone. That's new to the god skeleton thing. So I think that's a good dessert. They just got a little sweet crisp. Oh gosh, I hope you like it. Thanks.
It seems like a divine meal. They're trying to kind of hurry you along and like distribute. Are we lit by like the sun filtering through the water and the waves, or are there structures with sort of phosphorescent what have yous on the walls? What does this look like?
I think some combination. I think there's just like the faintest bit of like the wave refracted sunlight, but I think mostly it's like the little bioluminescent globes.
Royal room, yeah, I think it would be really easy to extract some sort of bioluminescent filter, like their version of like stained glass, so that the light filters through.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, in my mind. Very good.
I love it.
Yeah, I think this is the moment where like Sarl like suddenly realizes what's going to happen and is just like, this is heresy. You would eat the corpse of God? And like I think just Sarl just freaks out and starts causing a commotion and eventually has to be removed by guards.
Oh my god.
Stand down, priest.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
and Sarl like he leaps for the serving dish, desperately trying to like bat the food away, but somebody, he's old and infirm, somebody kind of like gets to him before that and takes him away.
Oh my goodness.
so as he's being dragged away, I think the mantle, as the room kind of quiets awkwardly after that commotion, the mantle asks both the explorer and the sous chef, as all of this is new and as we forge this new path, um, what would you recommend as the first thing to be ingested by your monarch?
I don't know, Maloxy, has anybody tasted these? Do we know what effect it might have on our biology, our anatomy?
So that's the thing. I didn't feel myself worthy to taste it. I thought it should go to the royal line first. We've run as many background tests to make sure it is edible and it's not lethal. As for what the effects are on our bodies ourselves, we're not sure if it's just going to be like a psychotic trip or a body modification of sorts. So it's going to be fun. I think. Yeah, I mean, that's why I started soft with the little gelatin flan thing, right? So like we'll start small and see what happens, but it's really cute. And I like eyeball where the priest was like squeaking in terror.
Yeah. I think you see the mantle uncorks some little kind of, gosh, what do they hold things in? Is it kind of a natural glass enclosure, sort of sand nearby getting, lightened and formed into things? Maybe some, strange amorphous enclosure, sort of uncorks it and lets out a bunch of really, really tiny little, like, kind of cleaner fish, and sort of lets them survey the beautiful spread that you've laid before them. And whatever they seem to be attracted to first is what the mantle will sort of ingest for the first time. Sort of a ritual, maybe poison testy kind of.
Yeah.
That's valid.
So is it what was the frond fish? Fillet of frond?
Yeah, fillet of frond fish topped with the aerated algae. Yes.
The aerated algae, excellent. But does this frond fish, what parts of the god body are incorporated into this? Is it like
so it's
over?
It's not as obvious. So like the gelatin has the almighty flakes on top of it, so it's like right there. But it's actually in the sauce. So we marinated the frond fish and then we put a little concentrated sauce version of like the ground in bits of God.
Cool. It's the gritty fish meal, and that's what the mantle's gonna eat. Excellent. So the mantle, yeah. I feel like the explorer looks on in horror.
Yeah, very distressed, and like I think has like tendrils wrapped all around them protectively, and is like shutting down their their chromatic cells as much as possible. They're like becoming like just as static as possible as all this is going on.
Oh.
Excellent. I think the mantle is taking off the bits of flesh, and takes a big, honking scoop of the gritty sauce, and you can see that they sort of scrape against it in their mouth and take a big gulp down, and maybe immediately start to see some of the stripes and undulations and tendons sort of shiver a little bit as part of their bodies. Sort of immediately taking on some kind of change. But I think we've answered the question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, but now the question is what happens? What happens next?
Right?
Yeah.
Questions beget questions.
Yeah, so good. Beautiful. Thank you so much for this.
That was
very
lovely,
fun.
people. Thank you.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Good scene.
So that was Darcy. So now, Alexei, it is your turn to make a era, an event, or a scene on the topic of interpersonal plasticity is the
Right.
focus.
Okay. So, uh, I am going to make a new age.
Okay.
This age happens after the first age of dissection, but before the age of necrosis. And this age is called the Age of Synthesis.
Into it.
And it's basically do I talk about it? Is this
Yeah. You can give like a big overview of what goes on in that era.
so after as the sort of like the wonders and the miracles from inside the god body are being distributed to the people, I think there is sort of a golden age a little bit. Like this is when like people really start to explore the possibilities in interpersonal plasticity and find like both the technologies of like grafting god stuff onto yourself to make you stronger and able to go out of the water, and the technologies of like incorporating the best parts of others into yourself and vice versa so that you
Ooh,
get
yeah.
stronger and better. Both of these are sort of in full swing at this point, and like the society is just like kind of like awash in this heady feeling of people constantly changing and evolving and building and growing. And I think like people make art about this a lot. People make, sort of there's sort of a like schools grow up around how to best do these, how to, et cetera, et cetera. So I think
Yeah,
that
that's awesome.
this is the age where all of these things start to really like you know start to offer the possibility that this society could like flower.
Yeah, I love it.
Is good, very good.
Yeah. And Jess, it is your turn.
Okay, so are we cycling? We're just doing the same process over. So I add an event, era, or a scene.
Exactly.
Okay.
On the topic of interpersonal plasticity in some way.
Gotcha. God bless you. I think I would like to add a probably an event taking place in why don't we flesh out the age of synthesis, pun intended. Okay, so age of synthesis, we're gonna have an event. I think that's so the age of synthesis is the initial like we realize we have interpersonal plasticity. So there really should be some sort of momentous event, probably like it's not depending on how hierarchical we are, like I think it's that first event of like some sort of merging or swapping happens with like that mantle position, the person
Ooh.
in power. Either there's a point of a little higher tension where there's someone they're not jiving with and you kind of start to see those similarities, or maybe there was like a really good like advisor that they had a lot of jiving with.
Yeah.
So I'm up for either, a point of
Okay.
contention or
So the mantle takes. How do we want to phrase this so it's still like ambiguous but clear what we were intending? The mantle makes the first dramatic.
like the mantle that merges or I don't know.
Mantle has first dramatic body synchronization event. Something along those lines.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, this is all easily edited too. So
Right, exactly, yeah.
We're good.
First, like, public display of synthesis.
Yeah.
First dramatic public display of synthesis. Is that what you're saying?
Dramatic public display of synthesis. That just sounds super extra. But I mean, we are just
we're in pretty extra territory right now. All right.
The DPS, dramatic public synthesis. Great.
Awesome. Okay, and then it comes back around to me. We are still in interpersonal plasticity. I think I would like. I think I'm going to create another event in the Age of Synthesis, and I'm going to call it the founding of the Academy of Apotheosis.
Ooh.
Damn, son.
Damn.
Where there is this belief in the Age of Synthesis that we can harness both harvesting the remains of the god and also this interpersonal plasticity to be able to either as a society ascend and replace the god kind of collectively, or possibly pursue perfection individually. But it's this whole, it's a school that is like the pinnacle, kind of the the highest minds of the society are focused on this.
Excellent.
Right, Darcy, to catch you up, we have in the Age of Synthesis was Alexei's creation, which is, well, here, why don't you give a quick synopsis, Alexei?
So the Age of Synthesis, it begins after the organ troves become more publicly available and people start doing sort of these, like, body swapping techniques. But basically the idea is that it's a period of time when the society flowers around these new techniques of, like, grafting hard points on or exchanging exchanging or mimicking each other's physical attributes. And the whole society sort of, like, grows together around this concept.
Love it.
And then Jess, you want to give a synopsis of your event?
Oh,
the
yes,
first
indeed.
Dramatic display of body synthesis.
Right. So with the Age of Synthesis, you start to see the commonality of being able to infuse your body with a god skeleton, and then we start to kind of get into that interpersonal effect of, like, what happens when our genes merge and such. And I definitely think the mantle is the first one to have, like, a dramatic change enough to notice. So
cool. So this is a major transformation of the mantle's body. Is that with someone else then, we think?
Yeah, I was thinking either way, whether it
Cool.
was more of a tension point or
I like it.
action point. Yeah.
Yeah, we left it a little ambiguous so we could dig in and explore if we wanted to. And then I created the founding of the Academy of Apotheosis in the Age of Synthesis, where we kind of have a school that's dedicated to both harvesting the best of the god and improving the self through that, but also collaboratively doing the interpersonal plasticity thing to kind of try and either push an individual or possibly even the society to replacing the god's role.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, and then let's see here. This was your round, right, Darcy?
Yep.
So For a legacies are so hard. Um, for a legacy here, I really like the idea of uh, the kind of culinary aspect, the ingesting of the god. Like I was kind of
Yeah.
thinking of building it on before, but I really like that the culinary uh,
Hmm.
consumption of the god body is something I think we should revisit later.
Cool.
We are right about at the halfway point. I know you had to step out for a second, Darcy. Does anybody else want to take a break real quick? We can take a quick little step away. Or are you guys ready to charge on for a bit?
Just a quick break.
Yeah, sure.
Take
All
5.
right.
Sorry.
No
I should have been
worries.
patient.
No, it's all good. All right, yeah. So we'll pop off for a couple of minutes, and I will still be in the chat if you guys have any questions or want to throw anything out there. But we will be back in just a few. Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.
All right, we are back. Hello, everybody. Thanks for hanging out and waiting for us to, do human things. Um,
Our weak human bodies had terrible needs.
yeah. We can't. We don't have the luxury of upgrading ourselves with god pieces yet. So,
Yet, yeah.
um, yeah. Just a couple of quick notes. I would love it if you are here and this is your first time here. You want to follow the channel. I'm still building up my base. I'd really appreciate that. Throw a follow up there. The other thing is I am a Twitch affiliate, so like you can do like the throw bits or subscribe or something like that. But I'm not. I don't. I'm doing this for fun and for the enjoyment and for the community. So for the next year at least, I'm not trying to make money off this at all. Any money that does come in through it, if you want to throw bits in or anything like that, is all going to go to the Trevor Project. So just feel free to do it or donate to them on your own because you ought to, because they're fantastic. We are going to finish this round, let everybody have a chance being the focus, and then do a little bit of tie-up and then a little bit of discussion of where we're going next week when we meet up to drill into one of these fascinating slices of this history that we're building together. We left off after Darcy's turn, so Alexei, you are up. You get to choose a focus and then make 2 nested events if you would like to.
Okay. So my focus is on the divine parasites.
Excellent.
These are released at the end of the first age of dissection, and I think that they wind up. I think that these parasites are actually like the source, or at least, or an alternate source of like a lot of the magic. Maybe separate from the like grafting and the like interpersonal synthesis. I think the parasites are like literally actually magic, which makes them very desirable but also very dangerous. People breed them and try to control them, but of course they get free and eat the god all the time, and that more and more important. So I am going to add, in the Age of Synthesis, after the founding of the Academy of Apotheosis, I'm going to add a new event and a scene in that event.
Excellent.
And the event is the founding of the Husbanders Guild. Who? Go ahead.
Just saying, cool.
Yeah. So the Husbanders, they task themselves with like raising and caring for these divine parasites, and also with sort of learning. Basically, the Husbanders become a mages guild. They start to learn the magic, or learn how to use the magic of these parasites.
Fascinating. Very cool. And then you wanted to create a scene within that?
Yeah, I think there's a scene here. I'm trying to figure out exactly what the scene is, because definitely, like, again, magic is gross. So these parasites are super gross. They're sources of magic, and I think that there's something about. I want the scene to have to do with contrasting the Husbanders against the other people in the sort of in this area. And hang on, I haven't quite like aimed down to exactly what this scene needs to be.
Sure.
Do you think the husbanders are socially acceptable, or are they?
No,
Okay.
wildly not, I think.
Yeah.
Magic is gross. People think people who do magic is gross. The husbanders are definitely gross. I think to do magic, you have to get these, you like implant these parasites into your body.
Mm-hmm.
You accept the parasites into yourself, and that's the thing that like gives you access to their magic. And yeah, everyone freaks everybody out. It makes everybody really, really uncomfortable.
Yeah, man, I want to drill into that a little bit for sure, because the fact that like it's totally normal to have like your body change against your will just by the strength of your emotions and proximity to other people, and the
Right.
fact that we're grafting bits of the god on all those things, not gross. That's fine.
Not gross.
This is gross.
Gross. I mean, like I think that's like, to me that makes a lot of sense from a societal perspective, that like we've drawn this like seemingly arbitrary but culturally very, very like bright line between these practices, which are fine, and this practice, which is wildly taboo, even though like taken together you're like, are these really that different from one another? But like for the society, they're like, yes, absolutely not. I know exactly what this scene is. The scene is
The question of the scene, yeah.
the question of the scene is, what happens when a prominent member of the community is revealed to be a husbander?
Ooh.
We do have a request or a thought from chat to like I know you're meaning husband as in husbandry, but
Right.
it is kind of giving me some of the cognitive dissonance too of like gendered stuff. Do you are you super attached to that word or have other thoughts?
So I actually I liked the word for some of that cognitive dissonance, but I'm 100% fine with switching it. If we're going to switch it, then like, is it too on the nose to make it like the Guild of Hosts, or like, because you're like hosting the parasite? Is that?
I like that. I
Yeah.
think,
Okay,
yeah.
let's do that instead.
From an inherently pretty bendy, twisty, plastic, non-binary kind of situation here. I think I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Order of Hosts, or yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Guild of Hosts.
The Order of Hosts is very good.
My Numenera is showing, but I think it has a ring to it.
No, it's got a super ring. And I actually think Order is better than Guild, because I don't think that they're like, the Guild implies, for me
like
at least,
manufacturing or making something.
Well, or just like having like a social, like being public or socially acceptable. And I think that this is definitely more of an order rather than a host.
Oh my god, it's a host
No, we're
club.
not. It's a host club.
It's a host club. I didn't think of that.
Oh god. Darn it. Who are you, Anne Gremlin? I adore you.
My goodness.
All right. Groovy. So, and then will you pick a location and then people who are banned or required for the scene?
Okay, so I think the location is somewhere relatively public, but not necessarily like a public square, but like not an upscale restaurant.
We're in the age of
we're in the age of synthesis here.
Yeah, so maybe this is like this is one of the first like structures that's up out of the water. It's like
yes, it's a royal garden that's been built on land.
Yeah.
It's this very avant-garde, like the monarch decreed that we should have an open air garden, and everybody's like, we're gonna have to graft a lot to go up there. And the monarch's like, yes you are, kind of hang out in my garden. and people have it's become quite a fashionable spot to like go and be seen and show off your new crafts and
Yes.
all that stuff.
Excellent.
In terms of who's there, I think like anyone can be there. I think like I'm trying to think of like at least one person needs to be there who's the host, who's also a fairly prominent member of society. Who should that be?
Like a mantle advisory, or
Yeah, maybe a mental advisor, or like a
maybe it's someone. What if it's like an artist, like someone who?
Ooh. What if it's the architect of these gardens?
Ooh.
Oh, I like that.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
Okay, so who wants to play the architect?
We actually go around in order and pick.
Okay.
So let's see here. So we are going to. It's actually Jess. Is you get the first selection.
You know what? Yeah, I'll do it. I'll risk it for the biscuit. I want to be the architect.
Awesome.
Nice.
It was my first career. When I grow up, 6-year-old me wanted to be an architect.
Aw. And now you get to. What is your architect's name?
Oh, shoot.
Oh shoot, got it.
No.
Teammate.
Von Drago.
Von Drago?
Yes.
Cool. Excellent. Do you want any other details in there besides what has already been established, or just the architect?
I want to say the architect is rather mysterious. Maybe a little bit of a recluse. Not many people see them, but see their work. So this is going to be interesting to be in public presence.
Fantastic. I think
I'm dying the anime aspect of this.
Oh, it's so good.
That's really funny.
Let's see here. So this is the Royal Garden. I think I am going to play a guard of the Royal Garden.
Cool.
Because I keep mistyping garden as guard anyway, so I'll just roll with it.
Embrace it.
And I am going to be we'll be Furl.
Love it.
And the Royal Guards at this point are terrifying. They're like have all of this like I'm seeing like exoskeleton grafted in with like tendrils coming out with like various like the like little spine injectors with poison like on the tips of them and stuff like that. I think that like it has become like a grim art of building these like sort of bio hybrid war machine guards.
We're not violent, but we definitely have the threat of violence.
Exactly. And I mean, it is overkill. Like it is as much a work of art demonstrating violence as it is of any practical use. Darcy.
I'm going to be playing Fell the Lamplighter. It is my job to go fetch more and more phosphorescent and bioluminescent algae and whatever it is we're using for lighting to bring up to these beautiful gardens for when the sun sets and the monarch and other royalty still want to stay up above. And it's very difficult and elaborate because this is up in the air and it sucks. So I'm imagining lots of hanging glass and globes and maybe some 2 slices of something glass together using capillary action to sort of draw up from a pool of algae. So you get this wall of it.
Awesome.
But I'm so flitting around trying to get that together. much less fancy exoskeletons at this point. Just enough to get me by.
All right, and Alexei.
I am playing Nemata Nudiplira, who is an academic. She is she's a dean at the Academy of Apotheosis. She was one of the founding members.
Sweet.
Yeah, she is a brilliant academic and an incorrigible gossip.
Great.
She is also like one of the people who is really pioneering some of these like synthesis techniques, and so she comes to the garden mostly to like see and be seen with like her new complex like chromatophore enabled frills and like all this. She looks great. She looks real good.
What is it you said she studies?
She's a synthesis expert, so she does a lot of like she works with people to like develop. They found that in that moment of synthesis, like it's not just like swapping parts back and forth. There's like a certain amount of like evolution that you can do in those moments. Yeah, exactly. It's very it's intimate. I'm gonna say. I think it's a pretty intimate process.
Yeah, I dig it. All right, and then let's go through real quickly. And what is your character thinking? Jess.
Probably snidely thinking about if the structure of the gardens is going to be bothered by this event.
Okay.
Not a whole lot, just a little blank space right now.
Cool. I think Furl is a little bit starstruck that Namada is here because Furl knows that their physical existence is owed to the research that Namada has done. So I think that they're still dedicated to doing their guarding and making sure that everything goes according, but they're very distracted by Namada's presence currently.
Got it.
Darcy?
Fel is crushing hard on Furl. Just thinks Furl is the cutest and has never spoken a word about it. And terrified of Namada being here. Namada's a big deal, very scary. Oh, and the architect rarely comes out too, right? So I probably haven't seen either of those two. So I'm like really nervous about two high-ranking folk being here. I'm probably nervous all the time. This is probably a very fancy high-end place, but I'm especially nervous about those and just trying to do my work quickly and try not to cause any fuss.
Can I ask, before we get into this scene, should we figure out how we find out that the architect is a host now, or should we like play it out in the scene? Because the question is what happens when, but like, do we want to start before that happens, or do we want to start sort of at that moment, or?
You get to choose what the starting moment is. If you can either dictate this happens and now we're dealing with the aftermath, or you can say we're starting before that, and then it's kind of in Jess's court to define how that would happen.
I would like that latter one. I think we'll start just before.
Okay, cool. And do you want to kick the scene off as well? Namada seems the most forward of all of these characters, so.
Yeah, actually, definitely. Namada is, strolling around the gardens. Just remind me the name of your architect character. I can't.
Bondrago.
Bondrago, that's right. So yeah, Namada is like swanning around the gardens. She has a little like group of grad students that she works with who are out taking the air with her, and they're all excitedly talking about the latest academic breakthroughs and gossip at the academy, et cetera, and she sees Bondrago across the courtyard and knows who Bondrago is, of course, and he's like, the architect, and sort of swans over, and it's just like, I love this work. It's so avant-garde. This new open air plan is so fascinating. It took me 6 months to get enough grafts to even come up here. It was worth every penny.
Yes, good. Marvel in it. The sea was the muse. I enjoy the execution. I enjoy the upkeep. You should appreciate it.
I do. Absolutely. It's a stunning work. I mean, all these hard, unchanging shapes. It's as if this garden would last forever. It gives me the sense of security, serenity, The ocean changes all the time, but this could be here until the sun winks out in the sky. Eternal. Strange.
Perhaps, or rather than the ever-changing currents, it is but a pool, a pond.
I see. Perhaps that sense of stability is itself an illusion.
One may not know unless they delve deeper.
Fascinating.
Furl is creeping closer, trying to still look official, but like is interested in trying to eavesdrop a little bit on this conversation.
I think Namada steps sort of like given such an intro line. I think Namada steps closer and she's like, I would like to delve deeper. And I think that's when she catches sight of something like little like cilia sticking out from behind your ear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, she's like, oh, you have something, right? She like reaches around and like, what?
In due time.
What is that? What is that, Vondrego? What is that?
Perhaps you're not ready for the answer. You did mention wanting to delve deeper, didn't you?
I mean, I'm interested in art and architecture. That doesn't look like architecture to me, though. That looks like something else. What is that, Vondrego?
Anything constructed is architecture. Anything designed with the consciousness in mind is architecture. Anything, absolutely anything can be art, my dear.
There are some things that should not be art. There are some arts that should not be practiced. You know this. We all know this. There are things that should be left in the dark where they were found.
A globe of phosphorescent algae shatters to the floor as Fel is trying to hang it, and it drops, sending little sparks of light flashing brightly against the ground, and then going dark.
Going dark.
Oh, my lands. Wow, we do have a klutz in the gardens. Okay.
Furl like kind of tenses up, and all of his tendrils sort of like array out around them as they spin to see what happened.
I think Namada is like, guard, hand this man. I don't usually grasp this architect.
How dare you?
The royal architect?
Why? What?
I think that the architect has been infested with something. I think the architect has a parasite.
That's a grim accusation. Do you have any proof, Namada?
I saw something. Remove the architect's hood and we'll get to the bottom of this.
No need to place fronds and tentacles upon me. You want to know the truth? You want to see the creation, the latest of my architectural standings? And you just see down what would be a spine, all of these. Yeah. How would you envision it, Alexi? What did you see as the initial? This is your
I think it's really, I think it's like bone worms, like just
yeah, gooey nastiness.
Yeah, just the grossest, weirdest.
Like lots of goop coming out.
Super goopy. Yeah, absolutely. lots of segmented bodies, lots of like extraneous legs that don't seem to do anything, and it like pulses in like an unwholesome manner.
Do we get to see that this gives you weird magic or something?
Oh yes,
See it.
totally.
Yeah. So, go ahead. Sorry.
Just real quick, the way, like, if you want to interact with people, the way it is the person who's acted on gets to determine the outcome. So,
Oh,
like,
interesting.
Okay.
Cool.
if you want to hit somebody, the other person says if it hits or doesn't. Just FYI.
Nice.
So, at this point, Furl will, like, at seeing that, like, will kind of move to step between the architect and Namada, and will just sort of like stretch their tendrils out, not attacking yet, but like almost like surrounding the architect with the tendrils, with all those like little venomous tips extended from the ends.
There's nothing hostile here. I am merely transforming, creating. And I'll pluck one of the little wormies out from behind my neck and just kind of let it slither off my hand to the ground.
Oh, gross!
Ugh.
And it'll form into like a mini version of like one of us. Maybe a mini version of Alexi's character,
Of
Namada.
Namada?
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Oh, she shrieks. She's so. This is so horrific to her.
Awesome.
Heresy to bring this here to defile the royal gardens with this filth.
The royal gardens, the ones that I designed, indeed. We're just clarifying. Who's to say I can't add to the design of my royal gardens?
I think that the Furl is going to like stab the thing that came out, like keeping all the other tendrils like aimed at you. It's gonna like send one down and kind of stab at it. I'm gonna say you still get to.
It
decide the
absolutely
outcome.
squelches. It does not screech. It does not imply sentience, but it squelches very disgustingly, and you guys see the splatter.
Does it like clamp on and like start to leach in to the tendril, you think?
Oh gosh, yeah, I could say a bit of the goop would just like not leave the tendril.
Okay, yeah. I think Frill is like freaked out by that and is like, whipping that tendril back and forth, trying to like, rid themselves of it.
Numata actually reaches out with like two sharp claws, and in one like very like smooth motion, snips the end of the tendril off and like bags it in something. And she's just like, this merits further study. And I think she's gonna turn around and leave. Like she's just like very rattled.
I think Furl's face is slowly becoming more and more like Von Drogo's, as they're so disgusted and angry about this. And so like underneath their like, their chitinous plates, you can see like it's almost an exact replica of like the lower half of their face.
Oh my god, why did we make this hideous hell world? I love us so much. The best.
And then Furl will jerk ahead at Fel and say, "You there, go summon the rest of the guard. We have a traitor in our midst."
Fel flees at top speed and I think maybe leaps into the water where presumably a number of waiting guards lie. Awesome. Excellent. Is that where we end, or do we?
Yeah, that's scene.
That's awesome.
The answer to the question, what happens when a prominent member of society is discovered to host parasites? The answer is nothing good.
Yeah.
Excellent. That was super fun. Awesome. Wow. Sorry, it's so hard to get back into like the flow when we have such a good scene like that. So that was your scene, right, Alexei? And so we are at Jess then, for the
right.
We're at a focus of what now?
divine parasites is the focus.
Right. Okay. So Alexi created it. Yes, it is my turn.
Yep.
Okay. Oh my goodness, divine parasites. What inspires me with these divine parasites? I am intrigued in the later life of the maybe the order of the hosts and the kind of during the age of necrosis to see how the population feels about the parasites themselves.
Interesting.
So in the age of necrosis, I want to see the event of maybe it's the dissolution of the order of hosts, but not the death of the parasites. They make that sound as they scan away.
Awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Excellent.
Bodies dying, the people are frantic, trying to find better order.
Yeah, I think that I am interested in doing a scene in the splintering of the God Corpse.
Nice.
And my question is, why did the Order of Hosts not stop the splintering?
Cool. I like that.
And I'm gonna... I don't think... Let's see here. So we're gonna be... The location's gonna be at the sites. We'll call it the... the fissure.
Nice. Yep.
And I don't think I have anybody. I mean, I think required is some member of the Order of Hosts, but beyond that, I'm not sure. Not sure that we need anybody in particular. Right. So, Darcy, who would you like to be?
I would like to be like the foreman of one of these organ troves, right? So like I'm deep in it at this site of the fissure, I guess. So I'm sort of someone wrangling the local explorers and people who are excavating and using it, sicking the parasites on it. So I'm just like knowledgeable about the area.
Excellent.
My name will be let's see. Sihu.
Nice. Okay. Lexi, who would you like to be?
So going off a suggestion, another excellent suggestion from Anne Gremlin in the chat. I think I'm a member of the Anti-Helminitic Special Forces.
I do not know what that word means.
I also had to look it up. It means medicine specifically used to destroy parasites.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn. They who created the parasites now becometh the one who destroys.
No, I think the Academy of Apotheosis in the Age of Necrosis evolves into, or parts of it evolve into, this anti-Helminitic force to stop the parasites that are eating the God Corpse, not so as to comply with our ban, not the people who host parasites themselves. Like,
right.
I think by this time, like, hosting a parasite has become okay, but there are so many parasites that there's like a special task force desperately trying to stop them from eating the rest of the world.
Yeah, I dig that. And your name?
Um. Uh. S27.
S27?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like the anti-Helminitic special forces, like, they just go by a call sign.
Dig it. Jess, who would you like to play?
If we're at the Fisher, I think I would like to work like as a worker bee version under the foreman.
Mm-hmm.
But in secret, I'm like a newbie in the Order of Hosts.
Oh, excellence.
So basically, on the forefront, I am kind of dopey and not, or yeah, a little oblivious to the deeper meaning of what's going on, but maybe curious as to how I can help.
Mm-hmm.
And my name will be Adriata.
Nice.
Lovely. Okay, I am going to play Yuli, who is a host bearer. I think a host bearer that was like ordered into exile because they kept like failing to keep their parasites in check. But has now been summoned because they have so many parasites, because they're just like burgeoning with them. They're very powerful. So.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm gonna say that, let's say, if it's cool with you, I think that maybe S27 has like is here to watch you lead. Like, has been tasked with like.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, that makes total sense.
yeah. Okay. I wish I had a dramatic hood like Justin.
We all do.
Cool. Darcy, tell me what Sihu is thinking.
It's now or never. This fissure is going to open if we don't do something about it. I have to convince these host bearers to help me solve it.
Excellent. Alexei?
If Yuli is allowed, maybe if I observe Yuli long enough, I will learn something that would help me fight these parasites.
Okay. Alrighty. Jess, what is Adriata thinking?
Muted pro streamer. They're flexing like what would be the equivalent of like a little pinky appendage. They're like staring into the fissure, like, wow, oh my, this is quite a big crack. Did we do this? Did we make this happen? Am I excavating more of this? Oh, but look at this power I have right in my pinky. This hosting is really cool.
Excellence. And I think Yuli is here, and they're thinking that they I think they're here and they want to see the fissure firsthand, and they're still undecided about how or if they're going to help. So yeah, um, I'll it's okay with you guys. I'll go ahead and start. And Yuli is devoid of like the hard bits. Like they haven't grafted any carapace or chitin on or anything like that. They're still very soft, which is very at this point almost unheard of. But their skin just like writhes. Like there's no part of them that's not moving at all times, even down their tendrils and whatnot. There's just like they're obviously just chock full of other life and seem kind of like distended and bloated because of it. They're just like they're just awful to look at. Very offensive to the sensibilities of Osteons. And he'll come and say, "Yes, I've been summoned. Who calls here?"
Sir, it's Sir, right? Hey?
Makes no difference.
Well, I brought you here today because you will notice that there's an enormous fissure happening in our God Corpse, and not only is this alarming from a structural point of view, it seems to be getting worse, and when it does, if it does get worse, it could completely disrupt the entire atoll and the God Corpse. But what is even more alarming to me is that my workers have said they've been hearing voices. And I think it might be, maybe it's the God, maybe it's trying to tell us to stop. I'm not really cleared for that kind of assessment. So I was hoping with your abilities and hosts and the divine parasites, you might be able to ascertain how to proceed.
Interesting.
God, he's trying to tell us to stop.
Sorry.
No worries. And if we let this fissure split, what then? What happens if no action is taken?
As far as we can tell, an entire segment of the God Corpse will separate itself and be possibly taken by the currents away from us. This could mean, we've built the Royal Gardens indeed are atop that part. It was one of the most foundational parts of our upper city. It could entirely float off. It could sink down. We're not entirely sure what would happen. Something of this nature has never occurred before. And this is not precisely how I would want to find out. Also, the voices said, death, destruction, etc. rain down. But, workers, it's long hours and strange places. Everyone thinks they see something down here.
You'll turn and look at Adriata. Have you heard these voices?
Why? Well, I hear a lot of voices. I mean, but you mean the ones the phone are talking about? Yeah. Yeah, the things in the hole aren't very happy with us. There's a little bit of talk of death, but it could be translated differently to be like maybe ending or moving on. Death might be a dark way to translate things. I don't know.
So at this point, S27 like melts out of the shadows. They just like so they've wrapped their entire body in these tendrils whose exterior surface is basically like octopus skin, so they're perfectly camouflaged all the time, and these just like sort of sweep away in this like long kind of like flowing motion, and also like unfurl little like sharp tips at the ends of all of these tendrils. So basically like what was once empty space is just like S27 is just standing there.
Awesome.
And they're like, what language is spoken down there?
were you asking?
You said translate. What language is spoken there?
How do I put this? How creative do you find yourself to be? Because really it's not necessarily audible. I think it's more in the mind. So if we're in tune with the whole, we hear the voice in our head. So kind of like your consciousness will manifest it how you understand it. So I don't know.
When we've tried to ask those who have heard it, some will report it in, various old languages or different dialects. It does seem to be attuned to the various workers. And if you compare two workers who heard a voice in a similar area in a similar time, it comes out a little different. But the themes we're gathering from whatever message this might be are ominous in some way. Now, it's been so long since the gods have spoken to us. I'm not sure at all whether this is how it used to be communicated. The gods have been dead a long time. Is this? I assume someone with your powerful magics might be able to help us find out.
Yes, Yuli. Show us your powerful magics.
I clearly have no idea how magic works, or the hosts, or anything. I'm absolutely baffled.
I think Yuli will like stretch a tendril out and just sort of flip it at S27 and let just like a couple of like parasites like flop out in their general direction. Like as like this is threatening, but like very obviously not actually intended to do any damage or anything like that. Just like kind of dismissive. And then they'll sort of float over to the fissure and stretch their tendrils out. And I think that like this like almost like ectoplasmic sort of like ooze extends from their tendrils. Is like you can see like all of the the movement under their skin like comes down and concentrates, and there's like this like what's the word I'm looking for, like almost plasma that stretches out across the fissure to the other side, and kind of like it's almost like they're extending out and reaching onto the other side and anchoring it. In this, you think if we anchor these two pieces together, we'll be good as new. No damage done. Can carry on indefinitely.
Well, that seems perfect. I am worried. Will these Jess, were you talking? Okay. I am worried that if the parasites are going to be present in larger quantities down here, will this bridge hold, or will they continue to eke away at the rest of the structural components?
That's an excellent question. The parasites were never meant to build, only to destroy. I contain within me only the seeds at the end of the god. We've crossed the points where we can keep this in contact. Now we must explore the abyss. And with that, it'll kind of like flip their tendrils and sort of like let it go and let the sort of plasma disperse. And you can hear like the fissure like creak and the earth grind underneath.
Oh, excellent. Is he allowed to do that? I turned to...
No, I think that like when Yuli like releases the tendrils, I think S27 just screams like no and sort of runs towards them, obviously kind of gearing up for battle. I think the thing I think S27 has decided that Yuli is the not responsible, but like is the closest person that S27 can blame for what's happening, and is just sort of like in this mode of like, I feel helpless, and this is an action I can take. So isn't like necessarily reasoning super well, but I think S27 will throw himself at Yuli.
Okay.
I think cold outer waters are coming in through this widening fissure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think when S27 contacts Yuli, he doesn't put up any resistance or anything like that. So S27 just like bowls him over into into the god body and just shoots the parasites out everywhere, just like stepping on a sponge.
Oh,
Oh,
gross.
gross. I think that like, so I think this happens like right at the edge of the pit, and maybe even so here's how I see it. S27 like sort of like collides with Yuli's body. Yuli's body kind of disintegrates into parasites. S27 winds up like basically going over the edge and barely managing to hang on by like hooking a tendril back at the edge, and then like slowly kind of like pulling themselves back up. I guess in my head this is air physics and we're doing gravity.
Sure.
But the thing that S27 realizes as they're crawling up the lip of this cavern is that the place where Yuli disappeared, all those parasites like sank into the ground and like ate their way into the god flesh there, and it's the same marks that are on the edge of the fissure. And like S27 realizes like, oh, this fissure was actually chewed out by the parasites. Like they did this. And I think that's the thing that when they come back up over the lip, they're like, it really is too late. There are too many people hosting parasites, and the parasites are too destructive.
Is that our scene?
Yeah, I think so.
Magic.
But magic will fix it. Gross magic.
Yeah. Cool. Good deal. And that was my scene, right? So we're at Darcy.
Yeah, so let's see. I think there is. So that was the event of the dissolution of the Order of Hosts. No, that was the splintering event. I think I'd like to add an age. I'd like to get bold here, if that's cool.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's just before the end, right? So there's the age of necrosis, things are going away and things are dying. And I want to add an age of some sort of rebuilding, some sort of or preparing for the end, right? So I think this is I don't think they go down with the ship. I'm not sure what they build to save them or what they go find.
Interesting.
But it'll be the maybe they're building a big like shelter or artificial reef, right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions about it, but I think there's something in between the age of necrosis and the end. Or maybe that's just an event. Do you think it's an age or an event?
I think that's a good age.
Okay.
Like we realize that the god corpse is not going to last. What do we do? And there's a stretch of time where stuff happens.
And maybe it's exploration, maybe it's innovation. Who knows?
Yeah.
Cool. That's my contribution.
Well, let's say finding an alternative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Finding salvation.
Yeah, searching for salvation. I like that. Good. Okay. And then we're back to Alexei. So, Darcy, you get to pick a legacy as well.
Oh, cool. Let's see. One of my favorite things that we've talked about. I guess I'm so bad about finding out what happened each round, right?
Yeah, it kind of blurs together, especially with the scenes.
Yeah. I guess I'm really into. I loved that the architect's depiction of the Order of Hosts. Like everything's created. Like I like that philosophy. That weird, like just as buildings are created, so too are our bodies. That like philosophy was really cool to me.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And then for our last go round, Jess, you are the focus.
Woo! Oh man, there's so much to play off here. Okay. Did Trello update? Darcy added a new age. I'm just trying to
Should
get my
be
head straight. Yeah.
searching for salvation is the last age there.
Ah, yes, got it now. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so wait. I'm the focus, therefore I pick a focus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a lens, I think is the term. You're the focus, so you pick a lens.
That makes more sense. Got it. So my lens of monocular choice is going to be I want to say something along the lines of culture, but I guess more specifically perhaps like social academia kind of focus. Maybe, I mean, it could be related to the Academy of Apotheosis. There are going to be so many words we've meshed together. It's hard. Yeah, let's go with education as a broad
Nice.
lens.
I like it.
Cool.
All right. And then you can create one, or you can create two if they're nested. So you can create like an era with a event, or an event with a scene.
Okay. I think during the age of synthesis, as the consumption of the god skeleton becomes more commonplace, I think there needs to be like a development of technology, like our people's version of books, so that we can pass along said data to our younglings to be like, okay,
Yeah.
this is how you consume safely, and these are the people you should stay away from.
Fascinating. What form does that take?
So I think it kind of splinters in the age of synthesis. It kind of manifests itself in that interpersonal plasticity. There comes a moment where it's kind of like a transformation version of like a neural implant is how we pass along information. So like I place my suction cup upon your snoot. You now know what I need to know.
It's the boop of knowledge.
Yeah. We can name it that. Oh man.
I like it. Cool. Do you want to play a scene in that event? I know we're getting a little shy on time. I don't want to push you too close to your next thing. But we can make a focus to keep the scene shorter if you want to.
Yeah, we could have a mini scene, maybe more. How do we want to? I think I want to flesh out more. How does our society structure? So do we have a parental thing, or do we just like apoptosis and we have mini versions that are now just knowledgeable as us? But I just kind of want to have like maybe some sort of scene to flesh that out.
Yeah, the other thing we can do is a directed scene, which is not a role play scene. It's just like the person who calls it just takes the opportunity to flesh out an aspect of the scenario, which I wanted to focus more on the role play, but since we're running low on time, if you want to just do that, that's certainly an option as well.
Just give us a vignette.
I want Grandma Slug to look upon Grandchild Slug and just kind of realize that they have things to impart wisdom on them. and just, well, now look here, my dear. I like this skeleton I'm dissolving. And the little slug is like, what? What do you mean the skeleton's dissolving? And she kind of just slops her tentacle upon his forehead and is like, you must know how to make the right foods and harvest the right pieces of the skeleton. But some people will give you bad information, so please don't let everyone impart wisdom like I am here. And like you kind of see as she kind of imparts this wisdom, she so calls it, is like a piece of her kind of falls off and sloops into him.
Mm.
So it's like a very direct, rather than like the interplasticity kind of situation.
Right.
It's like instantaneous versus kind of a transformation situation.
Fascinating.
And it's like, I see other worlds now. For a moment, he's like, ooh, eye twitching, and like, whoa. But yeah, I think we don't really have books, but we have means to transfer ideas and emotions and knowledge via our bodies.
Like memory polyp kind of a thing.
Yeah, okay.
Is
Cool.
it kind of explicitly end of life thing? Like bits of you are dying and so you're giving it off, or is it, can it be
I
done?
enjoy that concept.
Do you lose it?
it's
Like
more-
you don't remember that thing once you give it up? Like you literally pass it on?
Yeah, it's a vague echo in your mind. You know of
Cool.
it, but you don't have the
Nice.
details anymore.
Love it.
Yeah.
So
I'm
there's
gonna
a mystery
add.
of duplication.
I'm just gonna add one last little
Mhm.
like tweak to this.
Mm-hmm.
Technologically, this
Yeah.
comes from the parasite technology.
Ah, shit.
Yep.
It comes back.
This is one of the like.
I like it.
Yeah, this is one of the like a really common parasite that people started using. That like after a while people forgot, since it's sessile, it doesn't move. It like lives in your head and then you pass it along. So it's like a little like it's like a USB stick for your brain.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, maybe tweak it so that it was pretty innate as we to pass it along, but to duplicate it like USB style, it's definitely that post parasitic situation. I like that.
I like that.
Nice.
Awesome.
I dig it. All right. So that is me.
Yeah.
All right. I think that I'm going to put an event in the search for salvation.
Cool.
I think that I'm going to say Arlen the Delver finds and subsumes the god brain.
Oh God, yes.
Say that again?
I think that Arlim the Delver, who's a person I'm naming,
Love that name.
discovers and subsumes the god brain. I think, like deep in the corpse, he finds like some like giant repository of knowledge, and through this like sort of transmission, like takes it on. I don't think it goes well for them, but I think that's the event.
That's beautiful.
What age is that happening in?
That's in the search for salvation.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So, the Order of Hosts is no more, but Arlim is still using the parasites in some capacity.
Right.
So, yeah. Darcy.
During the necrosis, the lights, the like bioluminescent algae and phosphorescent what have yous, the final like stained glass light goes out. Like these things are dying here, right? So I think it's a late event in the age of necrosis, but the last bioluminescent window goes out.
Awesome. That is beautiful.
Just the player has been emotionally attached to the bioluminescent stained glass.
I'm obsessed with that idea. I can't stop thinking about it.
Oh, seriously.
All right, Alexi.
Um, okay, I'm going to add an event. No. Well, I'm really torn. I feel like when did that the last bioluminescent stained glass going out, what age does that happen in?
I put it in the age of necrosis, but happy to put it elsewhere.
That makes total sense. I feel like I want to put one last thing in Searching for Salvation.
Mm-hmm.
My first instinct is like the being that was Arlem the Delver enters some kind of like cocoon or chrysalis state.
Ooh.
But I kind of want, you know what? No, it's I think it's something else. I think it's after Arlem the Delver subsumes the God Brain, the event is just the invention of boats.
I'm on a boat.
Yep. We did it, people. We made boats.
We are both in water and on top of it.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, and do you want to pick a legacy as well, Alexi?
Yes. The legacy that I choose is that bodies transform, but people stay the same.
Mm. Like it. Alrighty. So we've each had a go at being the focus or the lens. Now I've got my terms. I think I actually had them back. I don't even know. We've been the lens focus each. So I think this is about where we're going to wrap it up. There's a few last things. Does anybody, if there's one more piece to the puzzle you feel like needs to be interjected, throw that out. That's at you too, chat. If there's one more bit that we need to stick in here somewhere. The other thing we need to think about is for next time we do this, next Saturday, we are going to be picking a slice of this. Well, we're going to be focusing on a slice of this and building a setting around it, and also building characters. So we can take this offline if we need to, if we can't reach consensus right now. But does anybody have inclinations about which slice, which era, which event would be most interesting to flesh out into a more detailed setting, and also what system we want to use for character building, if we want to. We can keep it pretty free form and GM-less if we want, but if there's something that really speaks to you, like, I mean, it would definitely be possible to hijack Descent into Midnight for this, and
I was gonna say
we can certainly do that as well. So what are your guys' thoughts about that?
God, I'm tempted. There's so many games I could play in here, right? Like the Age of Necrosis would be really fun for a really playing up the horror part of it in a lot of ways. Maybe even playing Dread with it, right? As things are getting worse and worse.
Ooh, yeah.
But I think we wrote a lot in the Age of Synthesis, and that would be kind of fun for foreshadowing some of these darker principles, but playing kind of a lighter, more exploratory game, a little more like my Numenera tends to go.
Yeah.
And then I also am like fascinated because the Search for Salvation has so many questions.
Yeah.
Like, so I think at any three of those I'm really excited by. What about you guys? And the first stage too. I'm excited by all of them. So I'm
It's so good.
I know it's a problem.
It turns out that we made a really good world.
But yeah, can we just we're just gonna take a second to appreciate what
Yeah.
has been
What a
synthesized
good world.
here. Yeah. Oh man.
From a like story design standpoint, one thing that I love about this is that at no point did we ask any questions or deal with anything around how did this god die? What happened before that? Like, I love that we just like started the world at like, yes, and then God died. Moving on.
Done.
It's just really good. It's just really good, you guys.
It is super good. I'm very pleased with how this went. Yeah, man, I don't know. It's really hard to pick.
I'm honestly okay with all the options, Darcy. It's like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
pinpointed really good points to kind of play off of. Yeah, easy consideration. Rich is like, Descent into Midnight, what? Of course. More like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't here earlier, but that came up like
Oh, a
basically
bunch.
as soon as we hit on this concept. So yeah.
We could reverse engineer it and ask, is there a particular event or age that Descent into Midnight would like jive with? I don't know if that's true or not because I haven't gotten to play the most recent iteration of it.
My understanding of Descent into Midnight is that this is like straight up just a Descent into Midnight game. So it's like the
Across the ages.
Descent into Midnight are like corruption versus sort of like the sanctity of a community. So
Yeah, it dovetails pretty darn nicely.
it's really true.
I think probably like finding conflict within the Age of Synthesis would probably be my stab at what would be the most like Descent into Midnight-y.
Or we could run like a straight up dungeon crawl as Arlen the Delver and their like posse go try to find the God Brain.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, I think I'm like into horror, but not I don't think I really want to play a one shot that's like super dark, grimdark. And so I think like having I really like that end of the sort of hopeful Age of Synthesis. I think that leading into Necrosis is really where I'm most excited. I'm excited at that turning point.
Yeah.
How do people feel about in there? Do we think any of those like events are kind of what we want to anchor it around?
Yeah. I think that there's a lot.
Yeah. Like
there's
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I think that like that the splintering of the God Corpse is sort of the like the event that kind of signals the start of the Age of Necrosis, or like, you know, presages like the what will happen during that age. And I like the idea that we could play through sort of the moment. I'm trying to think like what game would really actually, the game that springs to mind is maybe Dialect, since it's a game about like a group of people whose sort of way of life is inevitably going to kind of like change or dissolve. But any game that would let us model this idea of like, oh, the you know, we're sort of knowingly or unknowingly we're kind of racing against this encroaching darkness. And I think Age of Synthesis is totally, the tension is between the people who are like, look at this Age of Wonders that we've created, look at all of this beauty, look at all of this like synthesis that we've made, and then the people who are like, yeah, but the world is crumbling around us and it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
Gosh, that sounds familiar actually now that I think about it.
I think that the two different host philosophies between Yuli and the architects are kind of interesting too. Like
Yeah.
I think that there was a like a shift at some point, and exploring like that could be.
Yeah, I was definitely intrigued by that because, like, chronologically, there was definitely something happening to change the viewpoint of the hosts,
Right.
and the people who host, like, as hosts, and the idea of those. So
Cool. Well, let's pin it at the end of the age of synthesis. Um. So open question also is who's going to run this. I assume it'll default to me because I slapped this whole thing together. But if anybody feels like they want to take on running the one shot, then by all means you can claim the system as well. So
I think that's not something
maybe we can noodle on it.
Yeah, definitely not something I can improv decide. I'm like, well,
yeah, okay. Well, let's as a group, we're all good at the end of the age of synthesis, right?
Correct.
Let's pin it there, and then we will take it offline. We'll take suggestions from chat. I'll put this up on Twitter as well. We'll kind of like crowdsource some ideas for a system, and then we'll decide who's gonna run and in what system, and we'll announce that, and then we'll come back next week with some setting and character building with that knowledge.
That sounds fantastic. Good? Yeah.
A crimson age of flesh and industry, says Jordan Shively.
Lord, Jordan.
Excellent.
My God.
All right. That was awesome. Thank you, folks. And
thank you so much, guys. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
And especially, chat was fantastic to have you guys chipping in. And Gremlin and Jordan both, in particular, you guys had some fantastic stuff. Thank you so much for your thoughts and additions.
I will never forget Jordan Shively in chat just typing over and over, eat the God's flesh. Eat the God's flesh. Very, that's exactly as one would expect.
Yep. This was so good, guys. Thanks so much. And we will, like I said, I'll sum it up, but we'll throw it up on Twitter and make some announcements about what next week is going to look like. And thanks so much for joining me, and we will be back next week. Same Nudibranch time, same Nudibranch channel.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Thank you.